All right. So, yeah, why should you think that you're right? Took off my jacket, so things are serious now.
Leave the shirt on, please.
Yeah. If I roll up my sleeves, you guys are in trouble.
I better stop talking then.
No. I need pushback. I remember, I'm an atheist jerk right now. Not all atheists are jerk, but I'm choosing to be an atheist jerk. So, what else? Why would you think you're right?
Well, do we know that the other ones are true, per se? Because as a Christian, I believe we're grown up to believe that we are the right ones. And
Yes.
not other ones.
So, can't those ones be true? Like, you're discounting the opinions of billions of people who say that you're wrong.
I think some of them are right. I don't know what it would be, but one religion doesn't believe in Jesus but believes in God.
Okay, so Muslims are right.
Half.
Half right, okay.
Never seen a God from a different religion.
You've never seen a God from
Like work, miracles and
Oh.
change something.
Yeah, they do it all the time.
Never seen it.
Wow. Have you been in those religions?
No.
So then,
Well, who's to say they aren't demons?
sure, okay. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in divine beings, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to make
Yeah, I mean, it sure could. If you're a Christian, you could think that. But that's kind of mean to say to them, right? It's like, oh, all those miracles that you're experiencing, those are demons?
If they're wrong, they're wrong.
I mean, but isn't that kind of mean? Isn't that,
Not necessarily.
isn't it kind of arrogant to say,
Well, the truth is the truth.
yeah? Well, how do you know that it's the truth?
Because think about it, that if Christianity is the real religion,
Yep.
the devil would do whatever it can to make sure that religion is
And you know something? Is if Islam is the real religion, wouldn't the devil do a really good job of deceiving all other religions, including Christianity?
But we can all agree that Christianity is one of the most hated religions in the world.
Sure, maybe for good reason. Should it be hated? They don't treat gay people very well. Gosh, the Crusades were bad. Maybe it should be hated.
But that doesn't... Okay, wait, words.
Right?
Maybe
Sorry, I'm
just-
being a jerk on purpose, but
words are not coming to my brain.
I've rehearsed this too, so. And I can just be. So. This is what's fun about this job. Occasionally I get
Those
to role play
examples
being a jerk.
are incorrupt Christianity. That it's not
Sure.
true Christianity at heart.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They seem to violate the teachings of Jesus, right? Yeah. Except for stone the homosexual people in the Old Testament.
Yes.
That seems. You believe that too, right?
I believe that it happened, and then we all, as Christians, we also believe that Jesus came. And now that those people get a second chance and they have grace. And so now we aren't supposed to follow the Old Testament rules anymore.
Wow. Seems like a lot of work. Anyway, the whole Old Testament seems like way too long if it's not even supposed to be a thing anymore. But let's get back to the idea of you being arrogant jerks for saying that billions of other people are totally wrong about religion and you are right. That's pretty arrogant. Right? It also seems like it's pretty low odds that you would be right. Right? Raise your hand if you were raised first in a Christian home. Okay, so have you ever been taught anything different than Christianity is true?
In our home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not home, not at home, not in our house, but in our school.
Yeah, and then you go to school, but your parents have probably taught you in such a way, raised you in such a way to say, those people are wrong.
Pretty formative years too.
Yeah, right? Because if, let's say you were raised in an atheist home, and then you go to church, would you go, oh yeah, because you would have had all of this conditioning growing up to say those are the bad guys. So then when you go to school, because you're still in your parents' house, you can't believe anything that they tell you that's contrary to your faith. But guess what will happen? And this is the truth. This is Brad's putting his Christian hat on for a little bit. Okay, what will happen to many people is once they leave the home and the protection of their family cultivation towards Christianity, and then you go to college and you start hearing these things again with fresh eyes, you're going to leave your faith like that because you start realizing, man, there are other opinions out there than just what I was raised with. Okay, so now I'm an atheist again. So the context in which you grew up makes it very likely that you're going to be a Christian. And that's why you believe this. So you were raised to believe it. You know what would happen if you were raised in Iran? You'd be Muslim. And you would be dead sure that that's the truth. Right? Am I wrong? So I think the entire basis of your faith is because you were raised as a Christian. And if you were raised as a Muslim, you would be a Muslim. If you were raised as an atheist, you would be an atheist. It's entirely the environmental conditioning that you were given from the time that you came out of your mom's womb. Like, right away.
But can you change religions?
Oh, sure, and people do. They do it all the time. So, okay, and then here's another problem that I have. Okay, the odds of you being right are extremely low. Because let's say that, to use an analogy, that Jackson, you next week say, I discovered the cure for cancer. What are the odds of that, everybody? What do you think?
0.
0. Okay. Right? And why? Why would we, and you would agree, right? That seems pretty slim. Why? Why would you say that?
I don't have an equipment, a lab. I don't have any sort of knowledge that would provide that.
Yeah. Okay. So you coming out and saying, I've discovered the cure of cancer, almost, one would be extremely arrogant to say, but let's put that aside for a second. The odds are almost nothing. Like next to impossible that you would be right. Okay. So now, you guys who've been raised only to believe this one thing, that Christianity is true, and you don't have the knowledge that physicists have and atheist scholars have that don't believe Christianity, and you don't have the knowledge, you don't have scholarly titles about your own faith, you don't have scholarly titles about world religions, what are the odds that you would be right? That seems really low. And then, on top of it, you're not just right because you happen to believe a set of facts about some Jewish carpenter from the first century who died and apparently rose again. Everyone else is going to hell except for you. Wow. That's what you believe.
I mean, if we're going off of knowledge, you don't know that the world just happened to become because an explosion happened.
Yeah.
Or
But are you willing to say, because you haven't done the research, right? And I'm assuming things right now, okay? Let's say that you've done some research, but I'm assuming not, as a group. Let's say you haven't done the research to really know if this is true. All you're going off of is the fact that you were raised a Christian. And are you comfortable with the fact that everyone else on this planet who doesn't happen to know that Jesus died and rose again is going to hell, an eternal torture chamber, for millions and billions of years? You're okay with that?
well, that's why we go out and preach the word.
Yeah, sure. And it can motivate you, but then I would say Christians are completely inconsistent human beings. Because why are you even here? Like, if you can go and tell other people that, what was it?
It also says in the Bible that everyone will hear eventually about it.
Where does it say that?
I don't remember where, but I do remember a spot where it says like everyone will hear about the gospel.
Well, we just sang about it, right?
Yeah.
Every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. That doesn't seem to be like a good thing for everybody. I take that passage and it's like, okay, everyone is going to bow. Some are going to do it willingly and some quite unwillingly. So not everybody is saved, right? I mean, right? Not everyone's going to heaven. Some people are definitely going to hell. I think you have to believe that, right? Because otherwise Hitler's chilling up in hell. That sucks. And then that's another thing that Christianity doesn't make any sense about. Is that Hitler could have killed millions of Jews, and then right before he shoots himself in the head, he goes, you know what, Jesus, just to hedge my bets, I believe in you.
But that's not truly believing.
Well, how do you know that? There's a thief on a cross that dies, and he says, remember me when you enter into your kingdom, and he seems to have had a really bad life, doing horrible things. And then Jesus says, yeah, you're in.
But that's not up to us. That's up to God on Judgment Day.
Sure, but then here's some of the injustice of it, right? Is that Hitler can say, I believe, and then all of this is just about believing a certain set of facts.
I mean, God's the judge of that. So whether you do or don't, He will know.
Okay, then I'll just hedge my bets, and I'll believe in every single religion.
But that's not
That's
believing
not
in your
true.
heart.
That's
That's believing
not-
in your brain.
I don't know, guys. Okay, I just want to ask the question. You're okay with the fact, because I didn't get a straight answer out of this, you're okay with the fact that you believe that because other people haven't heard, like this is so, it seems so arbitrary, right? Like wouldn't it be, okay, so let's say that God decides that the good news, like in order for you to go to heaven, is to believe that Tim Allen, of all people, is like the best actor ever. Okay, and so then, no, people who haven't heard about Tim Allen are just going to go to hell? Like, that seems so... And then people who have heard, the Western world, like America, and people who have TV, are going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm saved, I'm going to heaven because I've heard of Tim Allen. And all these people who just love Bollywood movies, they're going to hell? Like, doesn't that seem so arbitrary?
Well, I think that's why in the Bible it says, in Romans 10, it says, how can they believe of whom they have not heard?
Sure.
So that's a message to us to go
Yes.
out and preach.
But, okay, everyone is going to hell, besides you. The only reason they're going to hell, like, you could have the nicest grandma ever. Like she gets foster kids in, for like her whole life, and she gives to the poor. She's super nice, and she just doesn't believe in Jesus, and she goes to hell. And a guy like Hitler or Ted Bundy, like these guys, they can, on death row, decide, I believe in Jesus. They go to heaven. Grandma goes to hell, all because she didn't believe that Tim Allen is the best actor ever. Like, that's how it sounds to me.
But in the Bible it says that all sins are equal.
But you're also
Like
using
stealing
the Bible.
and murdering is the same penalty as death.
Sure.
But Jesus took that death so that we could go to heaven.
Sure. I don't care what you believe. I'm just saying, are you comfortable with the fact that everyone who hasn't heard this arbitrary news is going to hell? Sam?
Am I personally comfortable with that? No. But I believe that I am not God. And my human brain cannot comprehend that kind of situation.
Yeah.
Or I allow that.
So well, I'm glad you're not comfortable with it, because man, that seems pretty awful thing to be comfortable with. And then the other thing is, it seems pretty inconsistent to live like anyone have lunch plans after this? No? Okay, good, because you should be going and telling people about Jesus, because otherwise they're burning in hell forever. You don't know when someone's going to have an aneurysm or a heart attack. Right?
You sound very arrogant.
Doesn't mean I'm wrong.
But how do we know you're right?
How you don't know you're right.
Fair enough.
Don't get on me. I'm just saying God doesn't exist because it doesn't seem like it would make any sense. And man, how stressful would it be to live a life that way? That's so logically inconsistent and so arrogant. And if you try to live consistently, man, you're gonna feel awful all the time. Anytime you hear of anyone dying, you're like, I could have done something, And you believe this life is short, then man. And besides, too, gosh, your whole story about Jesus dying and rising again, other religions have that. Like, as old as Egypt, there are stories of a god dying and rising again. So even your foundation story is just borrowed from other cultures around Israel at the time. You know? The idea of someone dying and rising again is a common theme in ancient history, ancient literature. The phoenix, right? Down, burns up the ashes and then rises new. I mean, there's a reason why Christianity took that later. But it wasn't Christian to start. So I think all of these religions are basically saying the same thing, is that do your best, and if there is a heaven, if you do your best, you get to go there. But, man, just all this nonsense about Tim Allen being the best actor ever, or Jesus being the savior of the world, and just assenting to that fact doesn't seem to be a very good measure of whether or not someone gets eternal reward or eternal torture chamber. Right? Am I right? Or have I gotten you to start questioning your beliefs? Or
I think you did a couple of weeks ago.
okay, but did I do it again today?
No, I just kind of didn't hear your final statement.
You didn't hear my final statement? Okay, here's my final statement. Is that it seems better to me, if you're going to believe in an afterlife, do your best, and if there is a God and he's just, then if you've done your best, you're going to end up in heaven.
Okay, so have you ever lied?
Sure.
Have you ever stolen anything?
Sure. Well, no. Have you?
Are you sure about that? Have you ever stolen a pencil from a library?
Where are you going with this?
I'm saying, so you're a sinner. I'm a sinner. If you believe in every religion, do your best, but your best isn't good enough.
Some religions want you to sin.
Yeah, I'm
Yo,
saying.
crazy. I want that one.
You do your best and you get into heaven, but your best isn't good enough.
Your good outweighs your bad, obviously.
Not necessarily.
Why would you think that? Okay, why would you think? And then this is another thing you Christians do. As soon as someone doesn't believe what you believe, you tell them that they're going to hell. Right?
I don't think we
Which, by the
necessarily
way, I mean,
do that.
if we're gonna go based on odds or whatever, you should just believe in the worst God possible, the worst afterlife possible. The God that's gonna send you to the hottest hell, the deepest, darkest place. Because then, if you believe in Him, at least you have the worst possible option off the table. You know?
Yeah, sure.
You're just averting the greatest possible disaster for yourself. So
Yeah.
why believe in this when you can just believe in the worst
Yeah.
possible God?
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I'll do that.
Why would you want to be with a God that...
I don't know if I want to be with them. I just want to avoid the consequence of the alternative. That's why any of us are Christians in the first place anyway, right? Because going to heaven beats the alternative. It's certainly a perk, yeah. You get signature status at Chick-fil-A. The unique experience is not going to hell. Okay, have I done something to start getting you to question some of what you...
Stubbornness is both negative and positive facts.
Well, sure. I'm an atheist jerk. I warned you beforehand. What do you mean?
What was that?
What do you mean by that?
I'm just saying, whatever you say, it's not going to really affect me too much.
Well, yeah, because I'm a Christian.
No, I'm just saying out of the topic, I'm not
Okay.
questioning myself right now.
Yeah, well, but am I bringing up some
Yes,
things
you're
and
bringing
then we
up
have
the
questions
Yeah.
of how to deal with these objections to the faith? I guess that's what I mean.
Mhm.
Is maybe you're not having an existential crisis right now, but maybe you've gone, okay, that's a good point. How do I answer that as a Christian? Have I done that?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right. So let's start with the claim that it's arrogant to believe that I'm right and everybody else is wrong. Oh gosh, you guys have to leave at this point? That sucks. Well, it's being recorded if you want the answer.
All right.
So, and you too, yeah, okay. So let's say, yeah, someone says it's arrogant for you to believe that. Now,
We should all just get to now.
I'll just finish the talk by myself, I guess, and just be better audio. Just right there. Okay, so Abby, you brought this up about arrogance, and glad you did this, was just because you're arrogant doesn't mean that you're not right. So the claim that, okay, it's kind of arrogant to believe that you have the only right religion, that has nothing to do with whether or not it's true. Right? Because let's say a doctor did find a cure of cancer, and he's an arrogant jerk about it. Because no one else figured it out. It was so easy for him, you know? Would that stop you, if you got cancer, would that stop you from going and getting the cure from him? No, because he actually has the cure. So the claim that it's arrogant to believe that you have the right religion and no other religion has any truth whatsoever to it. Now, that's going pretty far, but still, that idea that it's arrogant, that has nothing to do with whether or not it's true. If it's true, it actually might be the most humble thing that you could say because of the way that people will perceive you as being arrogant.
Wait, go to Christian Brax real quick. What?
I am Christian Brax right now.
Okay, then say that. Was God arrogant?
What do you mean?
Like, was he arrogant about, to like people, I guess? Arrogant about people believing God.
We'll get there. Hopefully, maybe we'll see if what I'm saying answers that question. But so first of all, it doesn't matter if it's arrogant or not. If it's true, because truth doesn't care about feelings most of the time. The other thing would be to say it's very low odds. Very low odds that you would have the truth. That is, if you arriving at the truth is because you have to figure it out, then sure, that seems like pretty low odds. If it's given to you by a higher power, well, then that starts to change the odds a little bit, right? So that's something to consider. Now, the idea that you being raised in a Christian context, and that is the only reason why you believe, that is something to think about. But that doesn't make that not, it doesn't mean that your religion is, by that virtue, not true, right? Because if you lived, let's say, 6,000 years ago, the prevailing culture would probably have some idea that the earth is flat. Right? 6,000 years ago?
You're on the edge.
10,000 years ago? Okay, all right. Then believe that the earth is flat. They're wrong. Okay? Does that mean that everyone, because of when we live in history, everyone who believes that the earth is wrong? Just because that's what we've been raised to believe?
Oh, there's proof of it.
Yeah, but have you ever done tests?
Yeah.
How have you tested this?
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you were like generally asking, have you had a test before? So.
Oh, no, okay. No one here has, I don't think, has tested to see, is the earth really round? Right? Raise your hand if you have. Okay, no one has. Well, okay, but like...
Sort of. I mean, like, if you, like, stand at, like, a really tall...
Yeah.
Then you can see the curve of the earth.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
look at a plane. You
Yeah.
can see the curve of the earth when you're way high up. Like, if it was flat, you would just see...
Sure, but I don't think any of us are, like, questioning this. Like, you didn't go up on a plane and, like, I wonder if they're right. You know, like, looking out the window.
I mean,
And
I feel like there's a difference, like, seeing for yourself while you
Oh,
still
yeah.
believe. Just like,
Yeah.
oh, like, that's cool to see, rather than
yes,
true.
yes. Well, and I would say, I don't think I've ever gone out and done an experiment, you know, of like whether or not this really is flat or round, you know. I don't think I've ever done that. And yet, we can be confident that we're right about this. And it's not that, well, you were just raised to believe that. Therefore, you're wrong because you're raised to believe that. You see what I'm saying? is like location in time and space does not determine whether or not your belief is true. Because, some people living in the desert right now would just not have trees as a part of their worldview all that much. And here in Minnesota, we don't really have desert in our worldview that much. That doesn't mean for the desert people, trees aren't real, right? Just because they don't live around them. And that doesn't mean for us, deserts aren't real just because we don't live around them. So, location in time and space does not determine whether or not something is true. And let's say that there's this, mythology about Lake Superior or something like that, and no one else on the planet believes that Lake Superior is real except for the people of Minnesota. Well, why do you think that is?
Because we've all seen it.
Because we've all seen it. We've had direct contact with it. And it's like, well, then it's real. That doesn't mean, well, you only believe that because you live in Minnesota. It's like, no, I believe it because I've experienced it. So then that would be something to consider as well. And then there's this question of belief. Because I want to try to answer this question about God's justice in sending people into judgment despite their lack of hearing about Jesus. So if we have, well, how would you define belief?
Knowing something's real.
So knowing a fact, or, okay. Any other ways of defining this?
Can we use the Bible?
If you want. I'm not atheist Brax anymore, so.
I would change the word knowing to trusting in a fact.
Trusting in a
Because I
fact?
think just knowing a fact, that almost sounds a little more like just knowledge and understanding. And so I feel like in belief, there's a little more like, I don't want to say like I believe because that's using the word for the definition, but like it's there's a little more like, oh yeah, it exists versus this is true, almost. And so I think belief is a little more this is true.
So belief is just acknowledging the reality of something. That's what you're saying. I'm sorry. I'm trying to parse out the difference because you said it's not knowing a fact.
Yeah.
It's trusting in a fact.
Yeah. And so like it's not just the general like I don't know.
I think what you're saying is it's not just head knowledge.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, so you have your brain here. It's squishy. And then you've got your heart. What else do you have that's important?
Your soul.
How do I draw that?
Like a little, like, swoopy
Like-
spirit thing.
This immaterial part of you, okay. All right, so you're saying it's not just here.
Yeah.
Where else is it?
Everywhere else. It's accepted by everything. It's accepted by your heart and your soul and your mind, and it's
Okay.
There's
I don't
nothing
think.
in you that denies it.
Okay. So you said nothing in you denies it. That sounds like excluding all doubts. That's what I hear when you say that.
Yes.
So then do I have to have no doubts in order to go to heaven?
No.
That's good. Because otherwise I started sending people to hell just this morning. Okay, so trusting in a fact. How else might we talk about this? Yeah.
Acting as if a fact is real.
Okay, so then that gets down into action, is that your belief in that thing should lead you to action. Now, you you said acting as if that thing is real. Does that mean that someone cannot believe in Jesus but act as if Jesus is real?
Yes.
And then that's belief?
I don't know. I saw that Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So then that would be a question. Another way of talking about it would be trusting in the fact, starting maybe here and here. And then that moves into love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, moving to action. And it has to have a source first, and then it goes into action. Maybe that would be a way of talking about it. So now here's the question. Someone hasn't heard about Tim Allen being the best actor ever. Are you okay with just trusting in a fact that leads to action? That's what you have to have about Jesus in order for you to not go to hell, and everyone else who doesn't have these set of facts, trust these set of facts, and act on it, they're going to hell.
Say that again?
If someone doesn't do this, they're going to hell. You're okay with that?
I would say it's not really up to us. Like, it's not relying solely on us.
Yeah.
It's, we do what we can, but it's, like, mainly up to God. Like, we can preach all we want, but it's not going to take a hold of their heart unless the Spirit moves, and the Spirit is God.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just, with our sense of justice, because I think God has given us a sense of justice as human beings, does this seem just? They haven't even heard.
I mean, it says that people who have never heard get punished less.
Well, that's nice. But they still get punished. Why? Why?
I've asked that before. I've asked why, like, if people didn't believe in Jesus, would they go to hell? And you said, well, I think everyone has heard the name Jesus before.
Well, I would have to go back and listen to God's recording of everything that I say in order to... But does this seem just, I guess is what I'm asking. Does it seem like justice that someone hasn't heard about Tim Allen being the best actor ever? I'm just using that in order to kind of emphasize what seems to me to be quite arbitrary. Like, does that seem just? People are going to hell just because they haven't heard this? And they didn't have a chance to trust and act?
Well, it's not our earthly justice, it's our soul justice, because God can't have sin in heaven. So he doesn't want to. It breaks his heart to cast people into hell.
But part of my sense of questioning is also that I have sin, and I'm going to be going to heaven, which tells me he's going to wipe away my sin, and I will be freed so that I do not sin in heaven. Why can't he do that for someone else who just hasn't heard this?
Well, they
Because they don't have the Spirit.
Yeah, but that's because they haven't heard it. It just seems unfair. Like God's like, okay, here's the only safe place. And yeah, well, if you don't hear, then Sodom and Gomorrah, like they didn't even have a chance. Okay, because I'm not comfortable with that. I'm going to give my answer to this, is that I don't think the Bible's primary language is even belief, but faith. And we tend to make those two things the same thing, belief and faith. But I don't think that it is. I think that faith is more like loyalty or allegiance. It's faithfulness to God, which involves a trusting. It involves being in relationship with him and all of those things, but it also involves this idea of allegiance and loyalty. Because what did we sing about before? All hail who? King Jesus. Okay, so now that also changes the format, the setting of our story. Okay, so imagine this. You have two kingdoms. One that is like Nazis, kingdom of darkness, horrible, right? And then you have this other kingdom, that's the kingdom of light, blessing, life, all that, okay? So now a call goes out to all of humanity. If you repent of your kingdom of darkness way of doing things and trust in the King, and you swear your allegiance and loyalty to him, then you're going to get all of the benefits and blessings of what it means to be a member of that kingdom. Okay, that I think is partly the message of the gospel. What does that mean for all the people who are part of the kingdom of darkness? Whether or not they've heard, what does that mean for them? If this kingdom, because we want the good guys to win, if this kingdom is going to win, what's going to happen to them? Destruction. Okay, now you might say, well, but those people didn't get a chance to hear, and they didn't necessarily do this all by themselves. They were lied to, right? Let's take the Nazis, for example. Was every soldier an officer who was a member of the Nazi party, were they all 100% in exterminating the Jewish people? No. A lot of them were like, we're doing that? Like, it wasn't that everyone was 100% in on that. And then when the Allied powers win, do they go, oh, hey, you know what? Franz, you're fine. You didn't know. Does that happen? No, there were trials that happened. The Nuremberg trials. And from the top of the kingdom of darkness that was Germany at that time, all the way down, people are getting punishments. Even the ones who are at the bottom, who are otherwise nice people, who were lied to, because they were still a part of that kingdom. They still bore responsibility for what they had done. So it's not just about you know a fact, you trust in a fact, it leads you to action. It's what kingdom are you a part of? Where does your loyalty lie? I think that's a better way of talking about it so that we don't say it's just because you haven't heard these facts that you're going to be punished. It's also, listen, your loyalty was to the kingdom of darkness. Even if you are a nice person, you still bear responsibility for that. So, if you guys want to talk more, we can, but let me pray, and then we can close out our time. Father, thank you that we can know the truth through Jesus by the Spirit. We thank you that your message has come to us, this message of good news, that we can repent and we can join your kingdom and experience new life in this kingdom, that we get to be a part of that kingdom right now together, that we're living this out as a church, as your family. And we pray that more and more people would join our family, that they would leave the kingdom of darkness, that we would be friends and family who love our friends and family so much, and then they ask us about what makes us so loving, what makes us who we are, and then we get to share the good news with them. Thank you for your grace and bringing us in. Praise things in your name. Amen. Like I said, if you want to talk more, we can, but I want to respect your time.